Alright, so here we are again,
Peace to the gods and earths, to all the civilized people in the universe, and to God, life and law, conversations with God. And thanks to the God Jerul, we here again. So what's the science, God?
Lovely. Definitely, we got a lot to talk about.
Indeed, I heard.
Let's go ahead and jump into it like always.
Yes, indeed.
So we're gonna start with the topic of purpose of 120.
The purpose of 120.
Now I know you have a plus degree that you drew up.
I didn't draw it up. I have re-edited it and made it more clearer.
Who's the?
It was a god named what's his name? It's right on the document itself. Juini, I think. I hope I pronounced that right. But this was a degree that was given to me, an add-on degree, a plus degree, what some would say. The purpose of 120, and it breaks down the science of the purpose of 120, why it was given, who was it for, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I gave it to you as well. Mm-hmm. I re-edited it because when I got it, it wasn't clear. So what I did was I rewrote it to make sure it was clear for the next person, you know what I'm saying, who I would give that to. But the brother, I forgot his name, is on the document itself. But yeah, I got it when I was a young god in the desert.
What was it about this degree that struck a chord with you?
I think when we get knowledge of ourselves, God and earths, we do it for a reason. We're all on a significant assignment, right? Because the lessons prior to mathematics talks about an assignment, right? Given something to do. So the purpose for me, or how it impacted me, was, wow, okay, so the purpose of 120 is just not to have 120, is to use 120 to get somewhere, right? To get things done, to make things happen. I would say that it was also for me a way to think about 120, not on the auspices of it came from the supreme wisdom, but how mathematics is applied to 120 lessons and how it could be used as a means to an end. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember the year when you got it?
It was in the early 80s. I got knowledge in 81. I got it around 84. Yeah, 84. And this is right before I went into the military. Yeah.
So at that time, I remember previous builds you spoke about not really having a grasp of what this was really about.
Right. I was still young. Yeah. I was, 15, 16. I mean, so like most of us, we get it. We're excited about it. We hear about it. We got some new knowledge, and we become, as I said, supermen. Right? Oh yeah, I got this knowledge. I'm better than everybody. I can talk you, and I can outthink you, and I can outdo you with answers and questions. But then when we realized that we didn't have the understanding of what we claim to know, right? And a lot of us still, and you can tell through the signs of the times, they got the knowledge of it, they know how to manifest it, but they don't understand how to utilize it. And so the purpose of the 120 is, how do you use 120 to be better in all things?
So you mentioned the signs of the times.
Yeah.
What are some indications that brothers and sisters in this nation don't have a full grasp of the purpose?
Well, again, a lot of the brothers and sisters I taught over the years, I always tell them to go back, as I tell Wasi Akil, even you and many others that I've shared knowledge with, is that, okay, we got this knowledge from a source. It came from Allah's mind, first from mouth to ear. But he got it from being in a place that was called the mosque. He got it there. But there was something that he got that most of the Muslims at that time did not even figure out, is that mathematics was the key to unlock the mystery of what was lost so it could be found, right? And if you don't use the mathematics, you won't see it. You'll take what they call the supreme wisdom on face value. It's when you have the supreme understanding of how it is maximized in its full potential is when you begin to see how it can be given to you in a way that's simple, plain, so that a child can understand. And when that child grows up to be an adult, he or she knows how to conduct themselves in a proper form and fashion as it relates to being a 5%er. You see? a lot of times, God, and even now that I'm noticing now, brothers are getting this knowledge through the internet. We never had the internet. We had it, again, mouth to ear, feet to ground. And that's how you was able to get it. You had to walk and talk and be amongst those who had it, because that was the only way you was gonna get it. Now you can go to the internet and Supreme Wisdom or 120 is all on the online. But online to do what? It doesn't explain it, right? Whereas you have someone who's practically living it out, their explanation is in the example. You know what I mean? So these are things that we need to get back to. It's not just you quoting 120 that's gonna make the difference now, especially in this day and time. It's how you're gonna take what you say you know, what you say you can manifest, which is great. Great that you can quote it. As we say, parrots can quote 120, but can they live it out? That's the difference between man and the animal. The animal is going in his natural or her natural instinct. Our instinct is to be God and earth, but yet we go contrary to the instinct, contrary to what's natural to us. And we still are doing things other than ourselves. So the purpose of 120 is to make sure that you understand 120, right? 120 means knowledge and wisdom. That brings forth understanding when you bring it out to an exchange, but then you add understanding to what makes it complete. Understanding is understood, so it could be comprehended by those who've seen it for what it is,
Okay.
you know?
So you mentioned the internet, right?
That's correct.
There's been some debate about brothers teaching over the internet, right? Just for the sake of clarity, why would it not be a good idea for knowledge to be shared over the internet?
Well, I think that there's a misnomenclature about the internet and how knowledge is exchanged. First of all, a lot of times brothers and sisters, or those that are even doing it now, are getting it for this is their means to reach the masses. We didn't have that, as I said back in my day. You had to be on the street corner. You had to be somewhere where the guards was at, in the library or whatever it was, in order to get this knowledge. There was no, well, go to the internet and get it from there. As far as the internet and its exchange, it is true that you can reach the masses using this, but I haven't seen one God on earth. And I'm not talking about those at the law school. I'm talking about one God on earth actually go through 120 lessons and express it in a way that the newborns who may be familiar can grasp it from that angle. There's a lot of rhetoric going on, not just within those that do podcasts on the internet and all that, but there's no real exchange of explanation on how this thing actually is activated on the internet. And so I think the internet has a means, but the way that most are going about it is not the proper way, according to me. This is my opinion. I think that, you know, when you have this type of medium, when you have this type of access point or portal, if you want to call it that, then when people are listening to you, Bill, they should be able to get something out of that that will awaken their mind that's been closed-minded for so many, you know, years, to want them to discover more, want to explore more, want to reach out more so they can know more. Because right now, we're not only in the knowledge age, we're in the age of transformation, right? And so this knowledge, the internet, if it's not looked at or considered wisely, can be trick knowledge, right? Yaqub has a funny way of how he used trick knowledge, right? He'll use certain information that you think is real, and then you get tricked up with that knowledge, and then that knowledge doesn't work for you. So this knowledge, in a sense of Allah's world manifest and how we do things, if it's applied by you being the living example of what 120 is supposed to do for you, is the real knowledge. That makes you the true and living God of earth. According to me, mind you. Right?
I want to add on as far as the exchange of this knowledge over the internet. I think that, and this goes back to some of the bills we already had. When it comes to being a teacher, in the student, right? The student needs to examine the teacher, and the teacher, you know, also needs to examine the student. to have an understanding of who this person actually is.
Right, the alignment.
Before that exchange should even happen, as far as them sharing knowledge with you.
Well, I agree with that 100%.
I think there's a lot of times, if you're teaching someone over the internet,
you don't have that interconnection.
You don't even know their history. They could be, pedophile. They could be this. They could be that.
And I'll be honest, there's a bunch of them in this, unfortunate to say, based upon their rap sheet, right? So I think you're 100% right, God, is that I wouldn't call it just an investigation. The examination is just not, oh, he sounds good, she sounds good. No, the examination is, where do you come from? Who you know, who knows you, what has been your works, what has been your contribution to this nation and to your community at large in terms of the bigger picture, in terms of your duty, and where has this knowledge taken you from the time you got it up until the point that you said you want to teach me? Everybody is not qualified to teach. Remember, in our first thing after we get mathematics, get the history and all these other things, we become a student enrolled. Right? Enrolled in what? The basic foundation of those 10 degrees within that particular lesson, right? But again, that enrollment continues on until you take your last breath. You don't stop learning just because you have 120 lessons and think that's it. And like I said, everybody's not truly qualified. Okay, you knowledge 120, but your life does not reflect that, right? It does not equate to what you claim to know because of the conditions that you're in. Do you really know 120? Can you really teach that and then think that someone gonna listen to that when they see you in that condition? The answer is no. So therefore, 120 now takes on a whole nother level. 1, 2, and 3 tell us how a devil's made, right? 1, 2, and 3 add a cipher. So now, if you separate yourself from what you say is a part of your life, then what you now are creating is a devil mentality based upon Yaku's process. You know what I'm saying? According to how you draw it up, right? So a lot of brothers and sisters will teach this, yet they do everything contrary to what they teaching. You know what I'm saying? And now the student who's watching the teacher is saying, wait a minute, you said this, but you doing this. Who am I to acknowledge now? So these are things that the newborns, as well as those who may be getting this through the internet, have to be mindful of who you call your teacher. As I shared with you, as well as I said, well, the best teacher is yourself, right? Yes, I can lead you to the water, but you're gonna have to drink it if you're thirsty. And all water ain't good water. Sometimes the tap water is dangerous unless you boil it. Right? Sometimes the alcohol water based upon plastic still ain't good. So drink bottled water, right? Be like Bruce Lee, be water, my friends, right? So yeah, God, is in this day and time, we cannot take on this idea or this thought of that a person who claimed to have 120 lessons is the right and exact teacher. We got to really make sure that their life is consistent to what they claim that they know. You gotta, like I said in my previous bills, you gotta go to their house, check out how they live, check out the way that they conduct themselves, check out how people perceive them in the community, check out how their babies feel about them, all of it. Then, once you come to a finite conclusion of how you see this person as an individual, then say, hey, brother, hey, sister, I would like for you to teach me because I see that what you're doing, it works for you. I would like that to work for me. But other than that, I don't care how good you sound, that don't mean that you're good. You got to really, really examine everything, study every square inch, of the situation before you get involved with people. I mean, I know that's what you did with me, right? You had someone else give you this knowledge in the early stages of your development. You saw that things wasn't according to, you met me at a bill and said, wait a minute, man, this brother's not like these brothers, or not that I'm better than them, but you saw something different in how I applied it and said, hey, yo, God, I need to holler at you for a minute. Yeah. Now, some people got, from what I remember, some people got a little offended by that. Felt like I stole you from them, right? I took their student. First of all, the purpose of 120 talks about what happens when you meet someone who can only take you so far. That person then is supposed to take you to the next person that can take you to the next level. That's supposed to be the role and responsibility, because there are some who are the best knowers based upon experience. It doesn't mean that, no one's stealing. Is that I know I've had this happen to me. As a young guard, there was a lot I didn't know. The brothers who gave it to me, Supreme Mind and Law Real, sometimes they wasn't around. So what did I have to do? I had to go to the next brother who was around. So I have been influenced by other brothers throughout the nation. Older brothers that's not here no more. Some that are still here to this day. You know what I mean? All praises due. But at the end of the day, I got to constantly be enrolled in education so that I don't lose sight of what my mission is. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, it was, I had a lot of questions early on.
Sure. And probably still do now.
Always. But brothers that I was building with back then didn't really give me clear answers. Mm-hmm. So when I was able to build with you, some of the questions were answered. So I was like, okay, it's a no-brainer. And then looking at where I was striving to go, mm-hmm. and looking at the experiences that you've been through, was kind of like, okay, there's a lot of jewels that I can take from his experiences.
Without question.
Whereas other brothers, might not have really been out in the world as much to have that many experiences we can share.
Yeah.
So, that was really what made me. And another thing I liked was you weren't so heavy on saying my student. It was,
I'm not that type of God.
It would say, a brother I'm sharing knowledge with.
Right, and and there's a reason for that, God, because sometimes with this knowledge we get caught up in this thing called egotistical maniac syndrome, right? Oh yeah, I taught a million brothers, and like I said, okay, great, where are they? Right, the fruit from the tree it came from, and I've been very selective on who I teach. Right, there's been a lot of people want me to teach them, but I see that they're not suited for this. Right, and those that are, they make themselves known by what? Using exactly what the purpose is to do it for. Is that I shouldn't chase you for this knowledge. You should be coming to me saying, yo, God, I need that knowledge. I need that. Right, that's the discipline part of it. Then the dedication. Okay, are you going to take time to study it, God? Because I can't force you to study. Then there's a duty and responsibility that comes with it. Then there's the dedication that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? And these are things that brothers and some sisters have slipped away from because no one is enforcing that onto them. And the purpose of 120 talks about how do you identify a 5%er, right? And you do that by, like I said, by considering the duty, the dedication, the discipline, and the determined idea that they have to be better. A lot of people take on this name 5%er to shield a lot of things they do behind closed doors. And many come in the name of Allah, but don't have the mind of Allah, which is a complete mind. You know what I mean? To mind their business, stay in their lane, and do what their assignment tells them to do. Right? We all have an assignment. We all have a responsibility, and we all have an obligation when you take on this particular persona to say that I'm a God or I'm a earth. Right? Now, a lot of us do it better than others. Some don't do it at all. Some wait for somebody else to do it and want to take the credit. You know what I mean? The reality is that once you get this knowledge, you're supposed to be doing something. First, self-preservation is the first law. Get your house in order. Make sure your things are right and exact. Make sure your family, your foundation, your career, your money, all. I got brothers, man, sisters who's supposed to be resourceful, reaching out to me for money, and they working. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yo, God, earth, you're supposed to be reliant, not on me, but on what you're supposed to be doing by using the useful land, the resource, the things that you have to do. And again, sometimes brothers and sisters get in hard times and we get it, but then you have some brothers and sisters that be using people for all the wrong reasons, and that's not a part of what we do. We don't use you. We don't abuse you. What we do is we're striving to what? Show you what's right so you can get that for yourself. And I say all that to say is that, in this day and time, man, we are living not only in the last days, we're living in very, very uncertain times because there's so much going on. We don't know who's who no more, right? I don't just associate with those who claim to be 5%ers right? Sometimes I just keep to myself because it'd be the same 5%ers that want to do you in and do you dirty. As the law said, the only one that can hurt me is another 5%er. That's if he's a 5%. If he's a 5%er, why would he want to hurt me? Why would she want to hurt me if she's a true and living 5%er? You know what I mean? But there are those out there who take on this persona, fabricate what they do, masquerade what they really on, and then you see the real them. And by that time, you're screwed over. Which is sad. It's a sad state of affairs. That's not for everybody. I don't want nobody to get it misconstrued. I'm just saying you got to be very careful who is a real 5% and who's not. And you're going to know. If you're paying attention, you're going to really know. And I had to find out the hard way, that some of these brothers and sisters are not that, as it relates to what I thought it would be when I was coming up as a young guard. You know what I mean? Now that I'm an older guard, getting ready to be quality ad, now I got to make sure that everything is in harmony. Everything is balanced, not just by what you said, but what you're doing and how it impacts me as your brother in the tribulation. You know what I mean? In this tribulation that we're currently in. So yeah, God.
All right, so somebody who is unfamiliar with our culture and unfamiliar with 120 lessons, and they ask you, what is the purpose of 120? What would be your answer?
The purpose of 120 is to give the person studying an idea of who, what, when, where, and why. The idea is to give you a practical navigational tool, right? To navigate life's sometimes uncertainties, life's obstacles. Everything in 120 can be shown and proven in no limit of time, meaning the time that you'll spend on this earth, you're going to go through various ciphers that the answers in those degrees, as mathematics is applied, will give you the right remedy to any problem you got. So the purpose of 120, we call it the book of life, right? You can live in fear every day or live in freedom everywhere. So no matter where you go, you're supposed to be God on earth no matter where you at, right? So the purpose of 120 is to give you a clear vision of who, then what, then when, then where, and then why, which is the question that most people ask, and you're the one that's going to answer it, right? As it relates to the why factor, which is the 25th degree in our alphabet, wisdom, power, God, right? Everybody looking for God, but they're looking outside, in the sky, on the internet, through other brothers, you know what I mean? But yet they say they God, but why are you looking for me to be your God? You be God. You know what I mean? You be that, and be that to its fullest degree if you know how to be that. So 120 is a navigational tool, and it's also a means to give you insight, hindsight, and foresight. Like I said, 120, you can predict your life, good, bad, or indifferent, but it's your choice. LCD, your life, your choices, and your decisions that's going to either make you, break you, or forsake you.
Okay. Should or do, or is it a requirement for brothers to memorize 120 lessons?
So let's talk about that. And I'm glad you answered that. As brothers get older, I know for me, because I can only answer for me, even it was said that old man Justice never memorized 120 lessons, but he was able to tell you what it meant. How do you know what it meant if you didn't memorize it? Because he went through life challenges, life changes. So again, this is a book of life. When we first get this knowledge as a rites of passage, we're told to fast, we're told to read, we're told to stay away from the 85% world, we're told to do a lot of things. But the one thing that we are told is to memorize the lessons. Now, where does that come from? If you look at the supreme wisdom for all those who know that that's where this came from as it relates to the source, it speaks about Elijah saying that the student or the laborer must memorize his questions and answers. All right, so Allah saw that as when he was in that mosque. To memorize it is to do like anything else, right? It's to make sure that when you're dealing with something, you know exactly what degree to go to based upon what you're dealing with. Right? It's not just there to say, okay, so you got brothers that know 120 backwards and forwards, left, right, up and down. But their life is up and down. Joys and sorrows, hardships and heartaches. 120 is there to tell you that what should be your reward in the destruction. Meaning, once you've reached a certain point, you should be rewarded for the labors and things that you're doing, which is love, peace, and happiness. Love is an understanding. Peace is the expression, and happiness is what you can get when you bring it all together. You know what I'm saying? But if you're not doing that, if you're not bringing it together right, you're not gonna be happy. And we got a lot of unhappy people in our nation. Let's just be clear about that. We have a lot of people that are very, how would I say, dissatisfied about where their life is going and where their life ended up, but it was based upon the decisions they made, good, bad, or indifferent. So who do you blame? You say you got 120 on cap in terms of memorizing it, but yet you can't remember the last day you did something for your family in the right way, in terms of planning and positioning right. You can't tell me the last time you did community service to handle or feed the homeless, because you are that, homeless, right? In the sense that you don't have a home to yourself, you know? So it's a lot to this thing, God, you know what I mean, as it relates to, you know, the reality of 120 and what it means and how it's applicable and how you should put it in position for your life. One more thing I might add, since I'm thinking about it and we're on the subject matter, is that, you know, right now, you know, 120 is still a basis of memorization because it will remind you of what your duty is, right? It's to teach those who have no civilization, the first thing is to be civil, right? To be civil. Then you become what? Righteous by thinking right and doing right, speaking right, looking right. Then right after that, you get the knowledge of yourself. Well, how can I teach you the knowledge of yourself? Only you know yourself. I can give you books, I can give you certain passages and scriptures, but until you know yourself, you won't be known. You won't be known, right? And then how am I teach you the science of everything in life if you're still stuck in one mindset? So, you know, this whole thing in 120 is supposed to open your mind for higher learning, right? I always tell brothers, man, okay, you have 120. What happened to the 240 that's left? The unknown ciphers. Remember, Yaqub had lessons that wasn't mentioned. Well, guess what? If he had lessons that wasn't mentioned, there's also lessons that you haven't discovered yet. And you got to go discover them by exploring the planet. Go outside your norm. Get out of the corner that you're in. Go take a trip. Go see something different. Go do something different. Go meet new people to, how would I say, expand your horizons in 120. Then you can have a life to live, because now you can talk about the science of things in life because you lived life. A lot of brothers and sisters is not living life. They're living, under the hamster wheel syndrome. But going nowhere. Talking about follow me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about the house track neither. How follow me? I'm talking about follow me. Well, how am I gonna follow you when you ain't going nowhere? Again, I add a little humor to my bills because some things are meant laughing about and some things are not. And right now there's no laughing matter. The devil is working overtime. I'm quite sure y'all see all this thing he's doing. He can care less about you claiming to be God. He's showing you that he's the devil every day, and he's telling you in your face that he's the devil. Every day. And he's using your woman, he's using your children, he's using everything in his arsenal to show and prove that he's the devil. So why can't you show and prove that you God then? Question for those who have the answer, right? But it's real, as I get older, I'm taking this shit even more real because nobody knows when the hour is coming, when you'll take your last breath. I just buried a few people that I know, man, and looking at them in that coffin, it's not a fair thing, it's the inevitable. So what do you do until the meantime? You got to do your duty. First, you got to do the duty with yourself. You got to make sure you are in a position to handle the weight that comes with saying that you God. I want to talk about this a little bit deeper now because, there's a brother in our lessons who was by the name of Jesus. And they shield certain things in the name of Christianity because they claim he was buried there. Buried where? Jerusalem, a place founded in peace, right? The point of that is that he was a 5%er. He taught the truth that the black man was God, and everybody he came to save to tell him that, they got rid of him. Right? They crucified him. The same people he came to save was the one who put him under the unfortunate, crucifixion. Don't think that you won't be crucified neither by the same people you coming to save. You're gonna be crucified. You're gonna be ridiculed. You're gonna be, taken advantage of if that's the case, and you're gonna be used for certain things because you say that you this. But you gotta stand on this, because without it, what do you have? So again, this is, everything in those lessons, God, has meaning when it's, applied through mathematics. We say that mathematics is a right and exact science, and it is. But unless you put it in the language so you can identify and interpret what 120 represents, you'll still be stuck in 120. And we got a lot of people who don't understand the difference between 120 and 360.
Okay, so can you give an example for those 85s out there?
Yeah.
Of how to look at a specific lesson.
Yeah.
And then break it down using mathematics.
Okay, let's talk about, well, I won't go too deep because we talk about, you don't want to go above their head. You want to go right in their head. We'll make it real simple. We'll use the first degree in the student enrollment. Like I said, all of us are students enrolled in this thing called life. And you gotta make sure that you understand who you are in this life to have a life to live. All right, so let's talk about the first degree in student enrollment. Make it real simple for y'all out there. There's a question that it asks. Who is the original man? All right, let's stop right there before we get into Elijah's answer. We look at the degree, the number next to that question. The first degree means what? Do you know? Right? And then the first degree in the alphabet is Allah. Do you know that you are the all? Do you know that you're supposed to give breath to the all? I mean, give life to it. Right? Hence Allah. A-L-L-A-H. That sigh of relief. Once you give your all within your power, to be who you came here to be, to exist for a reason, right? A purpose. Right? That answer says answer. The Asiatic black man. Wait, stop right there. What do you mean Asiatic? What's that mean, Asiatic? You mean Asia meaning continent, and attic meaning the mine where you store something in the rooftop of a house? That's what some people tell you, right? We know that's crazy, right? That doesn't make you Asiatic, right? But some people, we run with that shit. They think they did something spectacular, right? But Asiatic means a place of origin, right? A place where it was all one. All minds was one as it relates to the origin of your beginning. Now we say that the Nation of Islam has no birth record. It has no beginning. Well, you did have a beginning, right? I'm talking about you had a starting point where you didn't know, and then you started to learn. All right, so Asiatic black man, the maker. So if you have the knowledge to know who you are, then you have the knowledge to know that you are the creator to make things happen. Right? Well, what do you want to make things happen? You want to make things to say, hey, I created something and I've seen it from its thought to its tangible result to its impact on the world. Maker, owner. Well, what do you own? Right? What do you own in terms of your intellectual mind, intellectual property called IP? Right? Or your intelligent power. That all comes from the thought. So now that I've made it, now that I own it, now I can license it. That's called the cream. Right? Your labor is a part of your thought, your access, your skill set, your ability to put things in motion through the thought of creation. Now that you made it, you own it, and you got the cream from it. Cash rules everything around me, right? Cream, get the money. Well, look at the word money. If you look in the word money, what do you see? That's the question for all you out there. Look in the word money. What's the first word do you see? That's a question for you.
first word that you see.
Right, remember we on cream, money. Dollar bill, y'all, remember? Look in the word money. What's the first word that you see in that? Oh, who is that one? It's you. Yeah. So it's gonna start with you, right? Nobody else until you come to the thought of the conclusion, like, wait a minute, am I sitting waiting on Mr. Regard to bring me food? Am I waiting around? If I wait, I'm gonna starve. So guess what? I'm not waiting on nobody no more. It's me, because I'm the Son of Man who will relieve myself when I come to the grips that I am that one, chosen, the chosen one. I gotta choose myself. So to make it the owner of the cream, then you become a father to further other people with guidance, based upon the example of being the maker, the owner, and making sure you got the money to do what you got to do with, in terms of that first degree. Right? Okay, so now I've made a place for myself. I'm able to have a home. I'm able to have certain things. I'm able to achieve certain things. So without money, there is no honey out there. It's not sweet. Right? And for all you women who talk about you gotta pay me to take me out, well, you better have some money too. Right? Have some cash and credit. Right? So that we can come together. Now, the father of civilization. Well, if you are the one with the knowledge, you have the ability to create, you have the means to own, you have the cash to make things happen, because again, without money ain't nothing happening. Then you become the father of civilization, one having knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement. Is not a savage, because you're not gonna put yourself out there ridiculously to make money. You're gonna use the things that you naturally are born with, God's gift. Right? To make things happen, build a business. Don't have to be major, it can start small. That's what I did with my young garden herbs, small, and then build based upon what the market needs. I'm the father guiding them in that direction. Then I become the God of the universe. What does that mean? I become, as I said in the last bill, I'm giving it guidance, I'm giving it governance over what I decided to do. Some would say, well, that's good already direction, God. No, that's a semantical way of saying God, but it's more than that. If I'm the God of the universe, I'm talking about my universe. What I created, what I put together with those that want to be a part of that world. Unity meaning one, verse meaning conversation. What am I talking about? Mathematics, because it's going to add up. It's going to add up to something. And it's going to add up to something of substance. And that's what we need. Now, I'm not talking slick here. I'm not talking like, oh, wow, he's supposed to be the best. No, I'm the best knower of my cipher. I'm the best knower of my reality while I'm still living. My nation is not just y'all. My nation is what came out of my body, my babies. That's the nation, right? That's the ones I got to make sure I prepare for. You know what I'm saying? And make sure that when it's my time to say good night for the final lap, they have a means to do what they got to do based upon what I gave them as a father and as the God, right? In this universe of ours. And the universe is ever expanding. So why aren't you expanding? Why aren't you leveling up to another level of higher learning? This is why we have to continue to educate ourselves in the areas that make sense. If you don't have a clue on finance, it's free to learn. Right? If you don't know the signs of how to keep a home, well, go someplace where they can show you how to keep a home. Right? And again, nobody wants to deal with somebody who ain't got their house right, meaning they not in order. You got to ask questions. You got to make sure that, yo, brother, sister, what are y'all doing? What is it that y'all got? What's happening? So that we can build a home for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? I often ask brothers this: how does a wise man equal his own circumference if he's missing something? Because that's what our lessons talk about, right? The wise man equals his own circumference every year to every mile. Well, if you look at the circumference of the planet Earth, it's missing something, right? Well, that has to be restored before we can establish 25,000, right? And what is it missing, right? Most people don't know the answer, some do. Well, if you know the answer, you know it's got to deal with your culture. You got to have a culture, you have to have a means. And if you don't have a culture, what way of life are you living? So it's all these things, God, when it comes to being simple about that first degree. Now remember, we just hit the first degree in the student enrollment, the 1 to 10. And you still got 119, 2 that repeats itself. So there's so much when you look into these degrees, don't look at them for Elijah's answers only, because that was his answer. You use the mathematics to come to your own conclusion with your answer. You know what I'm saying? And how it works for you.
Okay, so you went through that build, right?
Yeah.
If you're, the black woman's the earth, right?
Some would think so.
Right.
She could be your headache. Who knows?
Black woman's the earth, black man's God. As the earth, looking at this degree,
the first degree,
how would she draw that up to find herself in that degree?
Great question. So now we're dealing with a duality here, right? When we're dealing with the woman, the earth, as it relates to that first degree, first, before she can identify herself in it, she got to understand where she came from. She came out of man, right? According to the story. The Quran says that the man and woman were created at the same time. The Bible says the same thing. So we realize that this woman, that one day we would like to call our earth, has a meaningful reality to our origin, meaning that we came out of her as her being the vessel. We are the what? The planters of life. She received life. And now, as a part of that mental makeup, she wants to know who she's in search of. She's in search of God, right? You look at a lot of these Christian women out here, even some of the earths who've been influenced by that reality. They're looking for God in man. And if they can't find God in man, they find God in another way, right? Meaning someone who's going to give them the answer to their questions as it relates to their survival and their security. So now when she sees this man makes things happen, he's the owner, he has businesses and certain things that will give her a sense of security. He's making money, right? He's a good father to his children and to his community. And he's a true and living God, no compromise, no fail. Wow, I want to be his first lady. I want to be with that man because that man got something of power. He carries himself a certain way. Damn, I don't want nobody else to have that. So let me come up to his level in terms of the equality. So let me be with him. Now, if he's a real man, I'm not talking about in the sense of, well, I go out to work every day, work a 9 to 5, I bring home my money and give it to her. No, real man meaning that sometimes you got to tell her no. Sometimes you're gonna have to really give her clarity in what she's supposed to do while she's representing herself as an original woman, and more importantly, how she represents you as your earth and your queen, if that's the title you want to give to her. But remember, once she sees you as that original man, based upon the who, based upon the what you doing, based upon the way you're doing it at, right? Based upon when, now, right? And based upon the why, then she starts to recognize, wait a minute, she has an intricate part to now the question now is being posed to her, who's the original woman? Right? Now, nowhere in 120 does it ask that question. Who is the original woman? Okay, so is she the Asiatic black woman, the facilitator? She's helping it make, she's helping it own, she's helping bring the cream. She's helping being the mother of civilization and she's the queen of the universe. If that's a total match, then you have what we call compatibility. Right? And yet we are in search of someone who completes us, don't complicate us, but completes us in that reality. But it takes time to discover that. Right now she's trying to find out, are you the true and living God? Are you the God that she's in search of? Are you just and true? Are you the God in the heavens and earth, according to the 37th degree, right? For those who know their lessons. So if you're not that, then you're just a mere man. And what she's gonna know time to do, and it happened to me as a young God, right? I wasn't a complete God per se in the sense of all the things that this woman or women were looking for. So what did they do? They broke out and looked for somebody else that can give them that. Right? So these are things you learn through trial and error, right? So her seeing herself as being the earth or the original woman comes through her realizing who you are based upon what you not just said, but what you are doing to prove that without a shadow of a doubt. You know what I mean? Because if you doubt, she gonna doubt you. And like I said in the last bill, if you're not the true and living God, she gonna tell her friend, she gonna tell some of the gods, yo, God, he ain't the true and living God. You know, he said he is. And I've had an experience recently where, and I won't name names, but it was a sister, I guess, had some issues with a God. And she went out on Facebook and said, he ain't no true and living God. Because she knows all about you. So no matter what mask you think you're wearing, if you're not true and living for real, you're gonna be found out as being a fraud, which we call job pretenders, right? Jive pretenders. You know, and of course, if you're jiving and pretending, you're gonna be found out. You know, so these are things that are real, man. And I would tell you that as a young God coming up, and now as an older God, as an older, wiser man, you know, you don't play with any of it. You know what I mean? You got to really take this serious. And this is why I said sometimes it's hard for brothers like me who are really involved, because most of these sisters are not ready to meet God face to face. He's not ready for that, because it requires a certain mindset of being submissive to this reality. But they'll be definitely submissive to an unseen spook in the sky, but won't be submissive to you. So you got to be very mindful, again, who you choosing, and then you got to be the true and living God, regardless of whom or what. And that's a fact, you know. I hope I wasn't too long-winded in that, but I hope I, you know, hit the point to all you out there studying and realizing what's being dropped here.
Okay, so this question will be controversial.
Okay, here we go with controversy on some print shit now. All right, let's go, controversy.
You know, we're living in an era where the alphabet community is heavily...
Yeah, the LBG, whatever they call themselves, yeah, LBGT community, and the trans and all these other things going on, yeah.
Can a homosexual be a father son?
No, we don't. First of all, let me clear the record here. My wife, well, she ain't my wife anymore. She can't marry under the government per se, right? But yet we still do that for those who do it. Her brother, you know, was that, you know, in that realm, and I never condone that. And I would tell him, yo, I don't condone your behavior. You know what I mean? That's not something I advocate. That's not something I'm on. You know what I mean? We don't advocate anything that goes contrary to what is natural. Now, some would say, well, yo, God, you know what I mean? That's kind of heavy, man. We say we ain't anti-white, we're not pro-black, but you're anti, you know, you'll seem like you're homophobia. What you do is what you do. That's your life. But when you force that into the mindset of the young, now you're playing with another life, and that is not right and exact, right? Another thing, in my mind, for what I know about that world over there, in terms of what you read, what you see, and what you hear, it is something that people are choosing to do because they think that that's a part of a lifestyle. And some say that they were born that way. No, you was born a male or female, and you chose to go that route for whatever reason. Right? If that's your choice, that's your choice. I mean, again, we got to make choice of what works for us. If that works for you, fine. I don't condone that, and I don't advocate that, right? Because I think that goes contrary to what is natural. Even the Bible says that is an unnatural act for two men and two women to be involved with each other in a promiscuous or sexual way, because it actually is another form of genocide. How can two men have a baby? How can two women have a baby? Now, of course, they get artificially inseminated, you know what I'm saying, or they'll adopt. But then that influence now plagues that young baby. And now what ends up happening, they becoming what they, are looking at. Is that right to force that type of mindset into a young baby's mind who is not that? And yet you're forcing that ideology in their head? No, that's not right. That's sticking pins in their head. You know what I mean? So I don't advocate that. So when you talk about does a homosexual or a lesbian, can that be 5% or no? Because that goes contrary to what we acknowledge. right? Now, I had an experience, right? And I don't mind telling y'all. I'm in Atlanta at the time. You know, we having, you know, brothers and sisters come together for civilization classes and coming together as righteous people. And there's a bunch of lesbians in there. A lesbian asked me, I want to learn. I had to tell her, if that's your lifestyle, then the 5% is not your way of life. You know, you can learn whatever you want on your own, but it won't be through me. You know what I mean? Because in order to be a 5%er, you got to have a certain lifestyle that's natural. You can't, you know, talk about being a 5%er, because what is to be a 5%er in this day and time? You got to teach that the black man is the God. How are you going to teach that if you're a lesbian and you against men? But yet you dressing like a man, but you against man. Something's not right with that. Mentally speaking, something's way out of line with that, right? So no, God, you know, but now here's the catch-22, right? We'll have some posing as 5%ers, speak the language, wear the pen, wear the head wrap, and there'll be down low homosexuals, you know, doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And this is why back in my day, the heydays in the 80s, we would watch you, study your movement, study everything about you to see what you really on. Yeah, we did that. That's a fact for those who know. And we would make sure if that was you, you wouldn't be around long enough to influence nobody else in that mindset. You know, and again, I'm not against if that's what you choose to do with your life, because it's your choice. What I'm against is when y'all trying to force feed this to the young as if that's normal, right? That's your normal. That's not the baby's normal. You know what I mean? Leave the babies alone. Grown adults that want to do that, that's your business. You want to go and whatever you do, then that's your business. Do that over there, but don't force feed that into the baby's mind. That's not right and exact, and it's wrong. And now the government and anybody else, in terms of their rights, right? We know that community is running a lot of things in the devil's world. Right? Music, fashion, TV, film. It's everywhere you look. I saw a commercial the other day, right? They had 2 black men, 2 white men, and a black woman and a white man. Where was the black couple in that? So media plays another important part to this. So no, God, not to be long-winded again, but if you are living that way of life, the culture of our God is not you, and it's never going to be a part of you if you can't mix that into this and think that because you got this knowledge that's going to make you a 5%er. A 5%er is a poor righteous teacher who teach that the black man is God. Don't get caught up in the 10% world, because that's the 10% world and the 85% world. And if you are part of that world, claim you a 5%er, that means that's a falsehood you live in. And for those that are living like that, I'm telling you, there's a consequence. Death is the consequence, right? And you see it, HIV and all these new diseases coming out. We don't know who's dealing with what, women dealing with men, men dealing with women, in the sense of some of them are even dealing with bestiality. I saw a white dude talking about when the first time I started having sex with an animal, I was like, yo, what? Yo, God word is born to my babies. I saw that the other day, a white dude. And you don't know if this white dude is now dealing with a black woman, and that black woman got all types of shit from the animal that he just screwed. Beast, yo, living a beast way of life. And they're force feeding that into the minds and into the psyche of young people using the medium to do it. So our job is even plentiful more than ever now to get these babies on right track, because we got a lot of things that's going against what we teach, as if our teaching is abnormal and what they're doing is normal. Yeah. It's crazy. So this is why, man, I'm very, for those that know me, I'm very cognizant, even more now, with all this stuff going on, man, because like I said, the devil's working overtime. And he's trying to maximize his mindset into the psyche of many. For those who haven't seen it, there's a bill that I asked the God to watch and draw up called The Conversations with the Devil. Make sure you go watch that and listen to what this devil is saying and how he uses the youth, women, and the media to create chaos, confusion amongst those in this world. And he's doing it. And it tells you in our lessons, he continues to do what daily? To teach the 85% that a mystery God bringing all this when it's him that's doing it. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no mystery about it if you paying attention to what he's doing. So no, for those that's in that world, you cannot be a 5%er in the sense of the word if that's the world you living in. The answer is no.
Peace. All right, let's change gears a little bit.
We're gonna switch gears.
You speak very highly of the young brother or the brother by the name of Shorty Black.
Yeah.
And he had some influence on you coming up.
Yeah, he did.
Farmers Boulevard.
He did. Yep. Farmers Boulevard, North Side. Piece of the Rocks. You know who you are.
Being that, he was out in the streets and doing this thing that way.
Yeah.
There's probably some type of dichotomy that's there because you see him doing wrong, but maybe some of the things that he's teaching you about life and just about code and honor in general are right. So, what can you say are some of the, specific things that he shared with you, and then maybe some of the things that you learned secondhand by just doing it out?
Doing it out, observing him. Shorty Black, our praise is due to him. Like I say, he was a brother that I went to school with at Andrew Jackson High School in the early days in the 80s. He was a part of the football team. And before I became a 5%er, there was a big rivalry between the football team and the guards. And we fighting every day, all that. And I'm looking at, remember, at this part, I'm like still in the mix of Zulu Nation, and I'm trying to figure out, well, who am I really here? Because I'm getting infinity lessons, I'm getting lessons by observing, I'm all over the place at this point. But Shorty Black, was a part of the official farmers crew that consisted of a few brothers in our neighborhood in the North Side. And, LL lived off of Megan in the back. I lived on 113th by Little Giant, and these brothers would be at a spot by a bodega at what we call the Rock, the Marcus Garvey Rock. It's still there. We do Farmers Day every year now with my brother, Chef Primo, and all of them. And at that time, in the early 80s, when I was coming up, Shorty Black, Divine, Freddie Love, Little Ronnie Bump, who unfortunately got murdered, and many others in that corner used to be at a store called Chat's Fish Store, for those who remember. And I learned through Shorty Black was that you don't gotta do what I'm doing. You can do better, right? Hence code. Be loyal to what you need to do for yourself. This life that we chose is the life that we chose. You ain't got to choose this. You know what I mean? We chose this because this is what we do, and we got to deal with the consequences that come with this, right? And this is why you had rivalry between Baisley, Linden, Laurelton, and Springfield, and we would call ourselves crews, or in some sense, family, right? And that family word was used as a prison term. Yo, what up, family? Because of things that we go through as a family. You know what I mean? I've been to prison, not long enough to say I did a far, 10, 20 year bid, but enough to know that wasn't for me. Not because that, you make mistakes, you end up behind bars. You have to pay the piper, right? Nevertheless, Shorty Black became a Muslim later on in his life. Took a shahada for what I remember, for what I understand. Had a young son with a sister named Jackie that lived down the block from us. Right? I think she's still alive. The son is still alive, but he's passed away. And he taught us, a lot of the young brothers in that neighborhood, to be always on, again, on lookout. Make sure you handle your business. Make sure you be a man. Make sure you do things. Now, he did a lot of things that wasn't right, unfortunate to say, because again, at that time, a lot of drug dealing going on, a lot of things going on. And again, this is not me saying nothing that I don't know for facts. These are facts. The Chat Fish Store was a very prominent area in our area when it came to that drug thing. You know what I'm saying? You had the official, I'm talking about Ronnie Bump, the official man who was given the reins by Pops Freeman, who was a part of the Genovese crime family. A lot of people didn't know that, but you learn the history about who these folks are. And he decided to pass on to Ronnie Bump, and Ronnie Bump became someone very prominent in our neighborhood off of Farmers, right? Farmers Boulevard was a very primary location for many things, I came through, lightly. I ain't gonna lie, I sold my little drugs, my little weed at the time. And, even I did a little crack thing at the time, to try to make, money. But I realized through Shorty Black's ability to share what he discovered, and I've had some fatal things happen to me in that game. I was selling weed for a Jamaican guy. His father, the brothers, it was a friend of mine we grew up with named Leighton. For those who remember this story, his father was a guy that came from Jamaica, and I remember I was selling weed, trying to make money, and he gave me this on consignment, and I fucked up the money. I went to his house to explain. He put a gun in my face, getting ready to shoot me. I was a little afraid. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little afraid. Like, damn, I'm gonna fuck the money. This man's gonna kill me over some weed money. So I remember telling Shorty Black that he said, well, if you didn't know how to get rid of it, you should have never took it. Because once you take it, nobody want to hear no excuse about what you can't do. In other words, have people that's going to get that money off, because once the people put that shit in your hand, they don't want to hear what you couldn't do. They want that money back. So he taught me, like, yo, you know what I mean? You don't want to sell for nobody. If you're going to do, sell it for yourself. That way you ain't got to answer nobody. You know what I mean? And I started doing that little bit by little bit. I was doing my little hustle here and there. I wasn't no big, notable drug dealer, but I did my little thing to eat. And then that's when, again, I started getting more involved with the 5% and learning from Supreme Mind and Law Real. And then I learned that Allah went into the military. After reading that he went into the military, I said, you know what? I don't want to get caught up with none of this shit, and I left in the military. But because of Shorty Black and his means to share with a lot of young brothers, yo, brother, if you do this, there's a life that you're gonna have to deal with, but you don't gotta do this. You have an alternative. You know what I mean? And many of those brothers who were doing that with him, some are here still, and some are not here. Some are still doing what they've been doing. To this day, right now. If you go to Farmers right now, some of them that we grew up together are still there doing what they've been doing. That's not to tell on them or to rat them, that's the reality. They handling their business, whatever that business is. I don't know, but we know, right? You gotta do what you gotta do, whatever that is. But the point of the matter is Shorty Black was a very prominent figure in our neighborhood. Him and many others. Sleepy and Chat, who returned, and many others who gave us some sense of, damn, they on their hustle, they making money, they got all the girls, they got all the jewelry, they got they riding in dope cars, and we wanted to mimic that as young people. But like Supreme,
but they never glorified the shit though.
They didn't glorify it. No, it's just like I said on the bill that you did. Remember, Supreme Mind told me stay away from that shit. Because, yeah, they hyping and hoopering and all that now, but they ain't gonna be around. And remember I showed y'all, if y'all saw his bill that he did on me when I took him to the desert many moons ago, I took them to 150th Road in Jamaica, Queens, showed them what the drug dealers were all around here. And Supreme Mind said, yo, leave that shit alone, don't follow that. Because if you do, you're gonna end up like that, either in jail, dead, or an addict. You become an addict, because you want to be a part of the program. You start sniffing it, and a lot of brothers did that. You know what I mean? So yeah, Shorty Black was definitely salute to him, man. And he was a part of Mike Tyson's, crew at one time. And he would travel with him when he was boxing and all that. You'll see him shouting, Allah Akbar, all that with Mike Tyson. So he's one of those type of brothers that we wanted to mimic. Like, yo, that's a real brother. Not to say be like him, but to, have that stature. You know what I mean? And he taught, many of us a lot. He definitely taught me a lot, and all praise is due to him. Shorty Black and the whole Farmers crew, the official. I'm talking about the official Farmers crew. You know who you are. And, we remember, I remember a lot, about what happened back then. And salute to my North Side soldiers and generals out there at the Rock. You know what I mean? 113th and Farmers, that's where I got my knowledge and wisdom. You know what I mean? And many things learned on farmers. You know what I mean? Kind of like that commercial. We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, farmers, man. Farmers Boulevard got a lot of history to it, man. 113th and that whole strip got a lot of history to it. You know?
All right. You care to share that story about when you was in Worcester?
Oh, when I shot the guy in the face? All right, so let me explain something to y'all, right? I've never been a thug type. I'm not that. But if problems come to me, I'm gonna definitely take care of it. I'm not out there trying to, force feed, because we are taught not to be punks or not to be suckers or none of that. If somebody come and deal with a certain way out of disrespect, we gotta handle it. So here's the story. I'm now stationed at Fort Devens, Massachusetts. I'm a specialist in the United States Army. I'm qualified to be an expert shooter. I was always taught, and the law said that if you're gonna have a gun, make sure you have a license for it. So I made sure that at that time, Massachusetts gave you a license to carry firearms. So there was some friends of mine, because I would always be, other than in the military, I would be in the streets of Worcester, Roxbury, Fitchburg, Leominster, and I used to sell things there too. You know what I'm saying? To make my hustle, you know what I mean? Again, I would drive, which I don't have a problem saying this, because that's what I had to do at the time. I would drive from Massachusetts to New York, get my little thing, and come back and sell it. Anyway, one day I'm at a party with a few of my people in the street. They got some beef with some people that I'm not privy to, but because they see me associated with them, they think that I'm a part of the problem. All right, so we doing this. I got my eye on it, I got my jammy on me. And one of the people that was on the other side knew me, like from, the things I was doing in the hustle and all that. So we decided to leave this party, and I'm not cognizant on the guy that's in the car with me is also a part of the crew that my people got a beef with. So I walk into the pizza shop. This is on Green Street in Worcester, Mass. Okay, for those who know Green Street.
It's near where I went to school.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. So I walk in, some of the brothers that got the beef with my people look at me and they jump me. Right, just started, boom, boom. Now remember, I studied martial. I was a martial art instructor in the military. So I forget that I have my weapon on me. I'm doing my hand-to-hand thing. You know what I mean? And I'm getting hit, but I'm hitting. Right? Because you're going to get hit. See, again, people think martial arts is some Bruce Lee shit and some flying through the trees and, crouching tiger and all this crazy shit. That's not what happens in the street when you're dealing with real hand-to-hand shit. Shit happens. Right? So I'm going through that. So I'm fighting these brothers in the pizza shop, and one of the brothers takes an ice pick and stabs me in my chest. I'm not knowing that I'm stabbed. Right? Because the adrenaline. My gun drops out. I jump over the counter to get away from, the 3 or 4 that's coming at me. And my gun drops on the floor. I pick up my gun and I shoot at them. Bop, 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 bop. One catch in the eyes, face, People are screaming, running out. Now, all of a sudden, I switch gears. I go into nothing happened mode. I don't know why I did this. But that same night, I had told my wife, I don't want to go out. She said, no, go out. You never go nowhere anyway. Go out. Hey. But something told me not to go out. I went anyway. Right? Sometimes you got to follow that inner voice. Anyway, I shot this guy in the face, which I had no problem doing, because now self-defense, according to me. Right? But they charged me with attempted murder. Witnesses said that I basically defended myself because they jumped on me. And fortunately, because due to my military background, for what they saw, and my commandant at the time, or my commander, the charges was dismissed. These people never showed up at the courtroom. It was justifiable shooting at the time, and that's what happened, man. But like I said, I don't look for problems, man. Problems are out there any day. And there's always that one thought that you go out there and you may not return home. But yeah, that happened to me, man. And that's a story I don't tell to be braggadocious that I shot somebody. But in the name of life or death, you got to do what you got to do, and I did that, you know. And those who know, DJ Shame and many others who was there when it happened, they will attest to that. You know, and you know, again, like I said, I don't advocate violence, but I realize violence is what people understand. People understand violence. People understand that, you know, that's a part of what's even happening now. Violence. It ain't no more to let's talk about it, brother. No, they understand violence, which is a sad state of affairs that you got to get violent for a person to respect or a person to honor what needs to be honorable. You know what I mean? Just as men. Yeah, but that did happen, God, and many other things happened as well in my life, man, that when I look back, damn, I'm still here to talk about it, and I don't talk about it, you know what I mean, because it's really nothing to talk about, really, but you asked the question, I gotta be honest and truthful that did happen, for sure, you know.
All right, so what degree in 120 do you think the gods and the earth in the now, of course, it could be many degrees, but if we're pinpointing down to one, what degree would you say they should be most adhering to? I know it's putting you on the spot. But
No. I'm sifting through the degrees in my head now. Which one would they should be most clear, you know what I mean, most respecting?
Yeah, where should they be adhering to? What degree should they be adhering to? Or aware of, or have a clear understanding of based on the times we're living in?
There's so many degrees. I'm flashing too. It's like I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm going through English C, I'm going through 140 in my head. I would have to say, God, honestly, the degree that I would say that the gods and earth should adhere to now, you know, of course, all of them. But if I had to really look at one of the degrees, I would say it's actually two, but if you could just ask for one.
You could get two out, but yeah, let's start with one.
I would say the understand and build and destroy degree, right? Why did God make devil? Because you know, it's talking about to show and prove who you are in the midst of the devil's civilization, and you still got to come out the victor, not the victim. Don't fall victim to the devil's civilization. Otherwise, it's show and prove that the laws of God always have been and always will be. Of course, I didn't give you the full degree, but I give you the understanding of what it means. Then I would say the culture degree. The culture add a cipher degree, the last, right? Because that degree is talking about giving all you have, all within your power, that you see today, that you've been not waiting, because you ain't waiting, 379, right? Understanding yourself to be God and making it born. That you're gonna give all your power to show and prove that you God, that show and prove that you are worth something, you know, that degree, right? Love, peace, and happiness, right? That degree talks about that, right? So if it's love, peace, and happiness, once you understand how to build, then you should be living your culture complete. Right? 3 and 8, keeping your word bond, making sure 9, 10, 11, right? And then you got the culture add. So giving all you have within your power. Once you show and prove your power, you give within your power, which is your ability to be free by spreading the news, spreading the truth to the people, spreading the truth of what this knowledge through mathematics can do for you. You do it with love. That's what Allah did, right? He did it with peace. No confusion about his assignment, and he was happy. They said that when he got shot, he was smiling. Damn, who smiles when you get shot? Normally you, and you, the shit burns. And he's smiling? What type of God was this? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But yeah, I would look at those two degrees, God. If I had one, it would be giving all you have and all within your power, you know, to see the day that you waited 379, but you became your own relief. 379 is 19. So you became your own relief. You know what I mean? That you became the answer to your dilemma. You know what I mean? You became the person that you was in search of all your life.
So brothers now and sisters need to answer the call.
Pretty much.
Step up to the plate to save themselves.
Pretty much. Because that's what that's talking about. But your culture gotta be complete. Your reality of what this means to you has to be complete, which is why it says culture. Some will say, oh, freedom after 40 or more. You know, culture, add a cipher. Well, what a part of this culture you add into your cipher, to your life, so that you can give all that you have while you're living and make sure that you do it with love, peace, and happiness. Because you're not waiting for nobody to give you anything. You're going out and going to get it. You're doing what you got to do. You're not waiting on me, you're not waiting on you, you're not waiting on her. You are not waiting on no one, because you know if you sit home and wait for a mystery God to bring you food, what's going to happen? You're going to be put out of doors, beaten and killed, right? By the same ones who advocate that mindset, right? And we're not advocating waiting on no man, on no woman, or no mystery God, or no mystery earth, right? We know what we got to do, but we got to know what we got to do so that we know how to do it. See, most think that when you get this knowledge, God, and hence the purpose of 120 is just memorizing and quoting it all day. Yeah, God, now that we go, let's go take a drink. Let's go and smoke on some shit, smoke on equality. Now we good, God. No. Once you're able to ascertain the purpose of 120 lessons, and you're able to sustain and see yourself growing, then you have to take this shit no matter where you go. We was in Belize. I'm teaching in Belize. You know, I'm teaching not by lecturing to you. I'm teaching by doing things that is, you know, in cahoots with growth and real development. As y'all know, I'm back in school. I'm in school for law. And I'm not gonna stop getting that education, because that's what law said for us to do. Learn a trade, get an education, and bring it back. Right? So these are things, God, if I had to look at 1 degree or 2, as you say, it would be the 38th. And then why did God make this? Why did he make his adversary? Why did he make his op? Is to prove that within himself that he can still, you know, rise above, not fall victim to the very thing that's got him stuck. Right? And you have to have that ability to do that, to show and prove that others can do it too, which is why our righteous brothers by the name of Jesus did the same thing, to show you that God is not in the sky, it's within you. You're that, but until you come to that, you'll stay in poverty. And look around, a lot of brothers and sisters in poverty claiming that they know, right? If they knew, they would do better, and they would do better. And notice I said that twice, they would do better, right? Not what they knew better, what they do better, you know? So yeah, those would be the degrees, God, yeah.
All right, let me see.
Now, of course, I got a little deeper there, you know what I mean? You know.
Gotta stay on the surface measure.
You know what I mean? No, but I think for what it's worth, right? Remember, these are questions and answers given to Elijah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we have to be mindful that when we quote these lessons, we're quoting his answers. The question is, if you apply mathematics, you'll come up with your answer to the question. You know what I mean? And that is very important, to use the mathematics to look in these lessons to understand the best part and to use that for yourself. And that's to gain things, gain things. When you look back in your life, for those who you shared this knowledge with, they can say, yo, that brother took this knowledge and made something.
Yeah, I think that problem 13 should really be a requirement, because in that, it speaks about mathematics is Islam is mathematics.
It can be proven in no limited time.
But it also speaks about what you should be securing, using. Yeah,
it is true. Again, we're not Muslims, although contrary to popular belief, we're not Muslims. We're 5%ers, and it's very distinct about who we are as it relates to that. Right? And just like that 16 degrees tells you, the 5%, the civilized person, the Muslim and Muslim son. These are 4 different characteristics of an individual. But if you're not teaching the black man God, then you are a Muslim and a Muslim son. Right? You don't have to know that part, right? So, but if you teaching that the black man's God to the human family of the planet Earth, You a 5%er. And teaching don't just mean lecturing. Teaching mean being an example of what a 5%er should be. Dedicated, disciplined, determined, have a duty to uphold, and is doing it with no excuses. Now, we all fall short. And again, no one's perfect here. But the idea is, while you living, while you on this physical plane, and you say you a 5%er, you should be amongst 5%ers that are truly doing something impactful and meaningful, right, in this day and time, so that when the young looks at you, they can say that that person made a difference in my life, right? And that's all the young people always wanted, was how can I make a difference for those who makes the difference?
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say the reason? So when this culture, obviously I wasn't there, but
yeah,
the history that I've studied, this is a culture that was grown through the efforts of young people.
Correct.
Why would you say in this day and time you don't necessarily see an abundance of young people in the forefront leading the charge for the culture like it was?
Very great question. In the early days of this nation, it was young brothers, Black Messiah and many of the first 9 were young, right? Very young in knowledge, very young in wisdom, and very clear about their determined idea at that time. And then we're talking about the environment, right? Now, as Law returned, unfortunately, as a martyr, which I call him a martyr. He got murdered being a person who wanted to share this knowledge with the young. And again, our nation went into a hibernation moment where everything was at a standstill until what happened at that Christmas party in the desert when all the gods and earths came together out there, which is why I always say you got to come through the desert to reestablish certain things within yourself. I don't mean the desert meaning Queens, I mean the desert of life. You got to go through some real, quicksands and some desert storms to come out on the other side.
Do you know, sidebar, but do you know who spearheaded that gathering in Queens?
But what I understand, other than the show and prove, was Prince of Law, out of the desert. If my memory serves me correctly, Born of Law, and I think it was Dumar. I know they did the show and prove, but I also think they had a very intricate part of that science too. Because remember who was there? Old man C. Just was there, right? Old man Justice was out in the desert. That's how it got there, between Al Jamel, Uhura, and Allah's right-hand man. Not talking about Abu Shahid, we're talking about old man Justice C. So I think that resurrection, because Allah was now gone, the only one that was left was Justice, and he was in the desert. You know what I'm saying? He was in Queens. So I think that is where that resurrection started, in the desert. Right? Now, of course, you had the Medina guards, you had the Mecca guards, some of them were still in prison, and you had the Medina guards doing what they had to do in terms of extending that. I think out of the boroughs that got it last, other than Staten Island, I think Queens was the last borough to get it as it relates to the transition from Mecca to Medina, from Medina to the desert, from the desert. No, if my memory serves me correctly, Mecca, Medina, Pelon, the desert, then Staten Island. You know what I mean? As far as Lord's Island, over there on the island on the other side. You know what I mean? But again, you had interluded with another part. You mentioned we had 2 questions.
About young people.
Right, young people. So
between then and now.
Right. The difference between then and now is that then there was this fascination of knowledge. Remember, the Nation of Islam, I'm talking about the Nation of Islam under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, had a very major influence in the young people's mind in terms of this new knowledge that was hidden. Then you had Malcolm, then you had Marcus Garvey, then you had all these influent Black leaders that was talking about wake up. Even in the early days of music, I'm talking about the golden era, it was a consciousness that people wanted to know. right? Young people wanted to hear lectures. They wanted to hear what needed to be heard. In this day and time, they don't want to hear no lectures. They want to see. Hence, Allah is seen and then he's heard, according to the degree, right? So if Allah is seen, as I always say, what is he doing? That's what the young people want to see. And if they don't see brothers doing that, they're not trying to hear no older brother or sister talking about you God, but you in a impoverished state of mind. Or you, your condition of how you live, you got tracks in your arm from heroin, and you talking about I'm God. Or you are not taking care of yourself as a black woman, you looking like a skank, you looking like a hoe, you know what I mean? And you playing yourself. So young people in this new knowledge, and talking about this artificial knowledge running around, right? They're looking at all these things. Okay, God, great, you God, now what? You're not giving me substance of food, clothing, and shelter? Then excuse my expression, then shut up. Because what you telling me ain't even working for you, brother. What you telling me ain't even working for you, sister. And until it works, it ain't working. So like we say, young people would rather see a lecture than hear one. That's why a lot of the black leadership is missing, right? There's no more Jesse Jacksons, Al Sharpton and the Runner's Course, and all these alleged black leaders. Where are they? It has to come from the 5% now, because our lesson said, let the 5% teach. Okay, but what are they teaching? It can't just be that the black man is God. That's his nature to be that. You got to teach how to be in control of your destiny and how to do it. You got to know how to do it, you know? So yeah, the young people of today have a low tolerance for people talking and have no action behind what they say. That's why they're out of line, they're out of order, and that's why they have no respect for the elders, because when it comes to revolutionary reality is bloody, right? It's, as you know, as Malcolm would say, which Malcolm was a part of, Allah's, education under his tutelage. He said the price of freedom is death. Are you willing to die for this nation? You willing to bleed for it? Most won't. You know what I mean? But many have. And that's why we have to take this thing serious. Not to the point of pushing people away, because sometimes our knowledge and our force and our energy will push a good person away, because they don't understand the sensitivity that comes with this, with us, who is in our heart to do this. And everybody's not meant to do this, but it got to be done by the chosen few, right? And those who choose, y'all know the story. Excuse my, they calling me now from all types of walks of life. You got to choose yourself in this, man, and when you choose yourself, it's a hell of a responsibility and obligation that come with it, Excuse me. Sorry about this interruption.
You need to take it?
No, I'm gonna have to call them back.
They must be listening to the bill.
Maybe, everybody's listening. The phone is listening. Now, what I'm gonna do is they're gonna leave me a message. It's coming from the VA, because I had an appointment today for my knee. So maybe it's them calling me about that. But anyway, like I said, you gotta choose. Yeah, it's the doctor calling me for my knee. But like I said, anyway, the point I'm saying, God, is that we have a serious responsibility as being the 5% in this day and time. We have a serious responsibility with the youth. We're going to be doing some things with the youth soon, coming up here in Long Beach, and that is something that they want to see as an example. You got to put your money where your mouth is, and you got to make sure that you're there. We're not going to be here forever, you guys on earth. One day we're going to die. We're going to move on to the next realm. And these young brothers and sisters, what do they have that to say that somebody left for them to carry the torch? You know what I mean, the hereafter, right? That's a part of our lessons, right? That's the 39th degree, you know what I mean? So we have a serious job, some of us know how to do it. Some of us got to show others how to do it. But once we do, you got to do it, It's very easy to go and try to bring people together for the wrong reasons. Right? That's easy to do, hence the gang life, hence the stuff you're seeing out there, people going back and forth with all types of negative nonsense, and that seems to be what people want to be a part of in order to be validated. But to be God and earth and be righteous in this, takes a certain character, but you're not gonna get any rewards. You're not gonna get some type of a 10-year, outstanding achievement award. And although we do that from time to time with those who are worthy of it, there's not something you're gonna get a 401k plan of or insurance policy out of it. You know what I'm saying? It's just something that, as it all, you have to pay your price. You're gonna have to wear your cross, and you're gonna be crucified when you're speaking the truth in a world of lies. And you gotta be ready to deal with that. You gotta be ready to deal with the rejection from your family, from your alleged friends, from your community, but you still gotta stand firm for what that is in the name and in the purpose of 120 lessons, which is what this whole subject matter was supposed to be on. What is the purpose behind it? And it is questions that was in that degree that the God didn't ask yet, you know what I mean? But that lesson is real, you know what I'm saying? That's a real lesson, and it's a very important one.
Okay. I'm all over.
Yeah. Take your time, God. We here.
I had a question in regards to, I never really built with you. You mentioned here and there about your experiences coming from Now I over here.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about coming from Now I to Love of Law.
Yeah.
And you getting into starting to connect with the 5% here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my connection here was with Bilal, who's a guard out of New York, and Born a Law, who come from the root, right? I think it was out of Pelon. He got his knowledge from El Naheem, who was one of my educators too. When I came out here in the early 90s, right, the guards were already here. They were already doing things. Jamel from the desert was one of the elders from the desert who was out here helping the guards out. I came in not as a firstborn. I came in as a guard from the root. And we would hold parliaments and rallies within the Lamert Park district. Again, I don't claim the West Coast. I was in the West Coast, but I don't claim the West Coast. I claim the root. And they had their own way of how they did what they did, how they do what they do. We started putting classes together at Lotus Sort of Now, doing some things. Some people was a little, had some issues about that, you know what I'm saying? Because they're like, who's this brother that's coming out of New York thinking he could just do whatever he want here? You know what I mean? And that happens from time to time. But when I started to build the guards, I noticed that some guards had more, camaraderie with others that they've been used to. They wasn't used to somebody like me who come from a certain mindset, from the desert, from the military, and I had a certain way that I carried myself. Some took to it as a sense of hope, and some took it as a threat. Who's this brother coming over here? But the one thing that I will say that what I noticed here in Love of Law, as Damik, who is considered to be one of the firstborns here, said, "Life, we don't do that the way we do it in New York." And I said, "Well, God," and he know this because I shared this with him. It doesn't matter where we on the planet; it's supposed to be done a certain way, regardless, right? Because if we say we do it this way or that way, then we have an indifference in how it should be done based upon the standard. Right? And Allah's nation had a standard. When I came in and got it in the 80s, we had a standard, and that stayed with me. So in my mind, no matter where I go, no matter who I'm around, that standard still holds true to me. What is the standard? That you carry yourself as a dignified person, as a divine person, as you teaching the young, and you being examples of what greatness look like in the face of these young people, that you living out Allah's teachings the right and exact way, not in a fabricated way, but in the right and exact way, that you're doing things to be an example. I've had some confrontation with brothers who claim to be 5% but want to use a gang mentality. We not a gang. You know what I mean? We never was a gang. We have brothers who were gang oriented, who came from that world and strive to become civil in this new world called Allah's World Manifest. So again, I never claimed West Coast. I always had my New York mentality coming from New York, and I stayed with that, even with the brothers who are from here, that were, born in this knowledge here. And again, I've never had a problem, although I might have had issues with a few who felt that, who are you coming here trying to tell us what we should do, right? But those that know me, know that my reasons were good. good intentions and for the right reason. Wasn't here to create confusion. And also, when you have those who already have a certain way they're doing things, there's a different way. Sometimes there's a conflict there. So that means you got to go and build your own house, right? A house that's built already, you can't come in and start taking charge of the house. You make some adjustments in terms of a house inspection, and you make some adjustments. But if that becomes a conflict, you move. Go someplace else where you can live out. So I've had brothers in other areas in the West Coast that got certain ways they do things that's different than they do here in the West Coast, like love of law and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, for me, you know, the whole planet belongs to the gods, right? That's how I see it. 196,940,000 square miles. No matter where you are, wherever you put your foot, there's a standard that's supposed to be adhered to. That's just how I was taught, right? Everybody don't adhere to that. And some people may not understand the strictness that I come from, right? And the sternness that I come from, and the cloth that I come from based upon who gave it to me, you know? And it's funny, you notice how if you're paying attention to brothers who got knowledge and who gave them the knowledge, and you might have met the brothers who gave them that knowledge, you could see why they're that way, because some of that way is how they operate. You know, and I operate the way Supreme Mind and Law Real gave it to me. You know, and that to me is important.
Yeah, I think the standard is a very important piece that's missing.
Yeah.
When it comes to people establishing what this is about.
Yeah.
I do see there's a lot of gods look at it more so as like a social group.
I think it is that to a degree, not just here in Love of Law or Law California, but anywhere. It is about socializing with the A likes, with your B likes and C likes, but everybody don't D alike, mean do alike, right?
In the midst of that, sometimes the standard's missing.
I think just like in the military, we have a standard. If you go beneath that standard, there's consequences and repercussions that come with that. Well, we're not in the military here. We're in God's nation, the law's nation. Did he have a standard when he was living? Of course he did. Did everybody, including the firstborn, adhere to that standard? The answer is no. They did not adhere to a lot of things he said. They did not do what he said that he was supposed to do. Some that did, they're well off. Some that didn't, they fell to the wayside. Right? Allah gave, what I understand, he gave a lot of these young brothers and sisters instructions. Yes. Gave them clear instructions. They chose to do what they wanted to do. Hence the story about one of the firstborn, you know, Kaleem, I think his name was, or Kahim, I said Kaleem. I'm thinking about Kaleem now, Kahim, who tried to outfast the father and started eating pork because he tried to outfast the father. Here in this thing in day and time, you just can't do what you want to do. I'm fortunate to tell y'all, all of us have to keep and obey the laws of Islam, right? If your ways and acts like those of a snake of the grafted type, then that's what you are, a snake of the grafted type. But if you don't keep and obey the laws of Islam, which is mathematics, and understand how mathematics is applied, then, you know, at the end of the day, what ends up happening is your mathematics don't add up. And if your mathematics don't matter up, you won't be making sense to nobody who you talk to, much less making sense to yourself. You know? So, yeah.
All right. So as we round third base.
Oh, we almost home.
You know, going back to the purpose of 120. There's a lot of heavy science in this, but
yeah.
Talk about the 7th degree and the 8th degree. The 7th degree being how do we elevate ourselves?
Let's start there. You said how the 7th degree, how do you elevate?
Yeah, how do we elevate ourselves?
Well, first of all, again, what is elevation? It's constant learning, right? It's putting yourself in positions that you can really see that once you apply and you see progress, and you see how your thoughts can create tangible results that's positive, then we elevate ourselves by study. We elevate ourselves by being around the right environment. We elevate ourselves by being what we know is right and exact. Because you can't just be right. You gotta be right and exact, right? And exact about what? Your determined idea, right? We have something that you shared with me, your life, I need at least 6 months to make that happen, God. Can you do it, God? And I said, yo, God, why would you question what I could do? Don't you know I'm capable of doing whatever I put my mind to? So are you, right? But things happen, things change, and you have to adapt to change as you go. But I think as far as elevation, remember it's the 7th degree, so I apply that God can do whatever he put his mind to, if he chooses to do it, right? So elevation, and of course I'm not giving you the exact answer to how that question is answered within that plus lesson.
But it's within.
But it's within the scope.
The answer is we study, meditate, practice Islam.
Right. We study, we meditate, and practice Islam. So study is, what are we studying? Life. Meditate. What are we meditating on? Positivity, growth, and progress. Right? And then we practice. Put into practice what we're studying. Islam. God, meaning an intelligent man or being or person who wants to be better in all things.
One could also say Islam is mathematics.
It's mathematics.
Islam.
It's a right and exact science, and it can be proven in no limit of time. But what is time? Time is wasted if you don't put it in motion. So, again, when we practice Islam, we're not talking about the religion of Islam. We're not talking about the Sunni Muslim Orthodox version of Islam. We're talking about the reality of Islam, how you stimulate life and matter to make what you're doing matter in your life as intelligent and conscious beings who's here to fulfill an assignment, and that is to awaken those that are caught in triple stage darkness and to make sure that they are filled with light of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding so it can be complete. And that's how I draw up that 7th answer, the 7th degree in that plus lesson. Now, you said the 8th?
The 8th, you kind of covered it.
All right, well, go ahead. What's the question?
The question is, what actually do we do in our study, meditation, and practice of Islam?
What we do is that we put what we're dealing with in motion. We read, we study, we examine, and we realize that our way of life deals with more than just studying out of a book, right? It's how would I say, is the practicality of how this culture can affect us in terms of our well-being, right? In terms of our mindsets. A lot of us in this, man, like I said before, many other bills have been damaged. This is a form of therapy, right?
The first part of the answer to me is the most important part. It says we study to gain the knowledge of ourselves. To me, knowledge of self starts with you being honest with yourself.
Without question. You gotta be honest with yourself.
Okay, this is who I am. These are the things I need to work on. This is where I'm weak. These are the areas I need, to work on. So it should give you that sense of being able to be real and be honest with yourself first. Mm-hmm. And now you got the tools to fix those weaknesses. Right.
Honesty is the best policy. But because of the idea of validation, a lot of us ain't honest. We put on masks, being pretentious, and then we go out there. Sometimes we struggle. Sometimes the obstacles that come our way is to test us to see what is our mental fortitude. Are we gonna let the situation overcome us, or are we gonna overcome it? You know what I mean? By going over it and conquering it. So yeah, it is about being honest. It's about really knowing yourself and what you're capable of. And a lot of times we don't know our capability because we're in doubt of it. Nobody ever said, hey man, I'm proud of what you're doing, and giving us a boost of energy, a boost of positive affirmations, or what we call uplift, to give you some sense of, hey man, I see what you're doing. I see you trying, man. I appreciate that. Sometimes that little motivation can take you a long way. We all need that. No matter how long you've been around, sometimes you want to be grateful and want to be thankful and want to be, open-minded to the appreciation of what we are. And sometimes a brother who says, hey, Jerul, man, I'm proud of you, man, what you're doing with your kids. I'm proud of you with what you're doing with your career. I'm proud of you, brother. If nobody ever told you I'm proud, I am. that take you a long way sometimes. Do we get that often? No. Remember, this is the only nation where we're not biologically connected. We come from different sources, different mindsets, but yet the one thing that pulls us together is mathematics. The one thing that we say that the father and son are one. Are we really? Is the father and son and the daughters are one in the mind? No, this is why a lot of times I say I come in the mind of life Allah, right? Because I'm gonna mind my business as life Allah. Life born power, Allah born God. So I'm gonna come as a person of power in the name of God, meaning my name. But I'm gonna come with my own mind to live out my own will so that you can realize who I am for real. And that came through trial and error. Remember, even Jesus had to go through a process before he came full circle, right? So will you. You gotta go through a process so you come full circle and come out right on the other end and be victorious in all your undertakings. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, we covered a lot.
Yeah. Any last questions in that bill? Or are you good there? For the purpose of 120.
Go into that. That's the knowledge wisdom.
Okay, the knowledge of wisdom.
So the question is, I have stated that 120 is the foundation of the 5%.
Correct.
But aren't there other lessons other than 120?
Yes, it is.
And then the other part of the question is, what purpose do they serve?
Right. Okay, so our lessons talk about how Yaqub had other lessons that I mentioned. Right? Well, there are other things you have yet to discover. These plus degrees that are written by brothers and sisters who have added on to their experiences, do they equate to relevancy? They are relevant to the degree of what the science of what that degree is building on or dealing with. So like I have a degree that I wrote about relationships. Well, there's only one degree that talks about that in our lessons. That's the 8th degree, what make rain, hail, snow, and earthquake. But I extended that thought into the practicality of relationships in real time. That's a plus lesson according to life law, right? Based on my experiences. So plus degrees is what it says. You're adding on to other realities as it equates to 120. 120 is always going to be the foundation, but you will have those who have written add on or other lessons that's not mentioned in 120, but they mention once you discover it, right? I always say again, if you got 120, there's 240 left that you got to discover. The unknown ciphers out there, the unknown travels. When you bring those things that are unknown to the 120, you got 360. Now you got a life to live and a life to be a testimony to, right? 360, right? 120 degrees knowledge, 120 degrees wisdom, 120 degrees understanding. Some only got 120 degrees of knowledge, but they don't have 120 degrees of proper wisdom, and they sure don't have 120 degrees of proper understanding. And this is why when brothers and sisters get together, there's a lot of misunderstanding. Right, if we was all one mind under one common reality, there would be no misunderstanding because we are living in accordance to the science of everything in life. But many of us haven't lived life completely yet. Many of us have taken on what somebody else said, regurgitating like it's our own. They have no real discovery yet, and until you discover it, how can you speak on what you haven't discovered? You know, hence the science of learning. Hence the science of coming together. The purpose of us coming together to God is not to just examine you just to see if you memorize a lot of your answers only. It's to discover, okay, you and I have the same foundation per se. But when you leave me, your path is different than mine. Is it the same if I'm going left and you going right? You know what I'm saying? No, it's not the same. You know what I mean? So in that reality of coming together, okay, God, you got the basics. Okay, God, I got the basics. Okay, now where's the basic training in the basics? Right? Where's the training? Where's the modules to make sure that we can identify the areas that we need to make it complete and to carry out Allah's, mission, which is to what? Control the world by teaching the world. That's what we're supposed to teach the human family of the whole planet. Right? That's what the lesson say, teach the whole family. The human family, inclusive to the devil. Now, why would God want to, this is another thing that people talk about, right? We're not anti-white, we're not pro-black, we're anti-devilishment, we're pro-righteous. So why would you teach a white man? Very, very profound question. First of all, the white man already know who you are. That's his problem today.
So you said, why would you teach a white man?
Yeah, why would you teach a white man, which is the controversy from some brothers. We're not anti-white, we're not pro-black, we're we're anti-establishment and pro-righteous. So why would you teach a white man what we know? That's the controversy. Why did the law teach Azrael?
Should it be a controversy though?
Not really, but it is because it tells you the white man's a devil in the lessons, right? So why would you be teaching the devil? Why would you teach a white man what we know in the name of teaching him civilization? Why would you do that, giving him the tools to keep you at bay? Why would you even make it your effort to teach him anything? Right? No, you're teaching him who his father is, who his mother is. And sooner or later, if he don't understand it, he gonna get a spanking. That's what parents do. We spank you when you don't listen. Right now, the devil, as I said, is working overtime. And as a young guy, I always ask myself, why did the law say that we anti-white? Even in his bill, he said the white got to come together. The white young got to come together. He was a very profound brother to even speak on that at that day and time. To say that.
Especially in the midst of
the current of that atmosphere, and yet he's saying we anti-white. But again, this is the greatness of Allah. He didn't have no biases. From what, despite his vices, he didn't have no bias. Remember his right-hand people were white folks, not black folks. Black folks was more of his adversary, it seems. And then that little buildup we got, he said how much he loved Mayor Lindsay. Love, do you understand love? That his people didn't come to, hurt the people.
He kept his word.
He kept his word, right? So when you look at that, you look at that example, and then you look at, what we have in this day and time. I've seen a lot of people defect from the Nation of Islam now, under Farrakhan and under Elijah. A lot of brothers on YouTube saying, I left the Nation of Islam because it's a cult and all these different things. Allah never built no cult. He built a nation, and I'm so glad to be a part of that. I'm glad that I was able to be a part of that second wave, the second decade, of that, the wisdom years, as I would say it, because the first year is from 64 to 74. That's one decade. From 74 to 84 is the second decade. I'm a part of the second wave, the wisdom of this nation, right? And so, like I said, reaching the 60 God and looking at Allah's mentality and looking at Allah, I asked myself the other day as I'm going through the study and stuff like that, if Allah was here, what would he say about his nation? I would say he would probably say we still got work to do. Our house is not in order to a degree. Although it's nice in some areas and some places you go that they're really doing what Allah ordained. And there are those who still haven't figured it out yet. So that just shows to show you that we still have so much to learn, so much to do, and so much that we have to deal with. Because again, as I shared with y'all before, it's getting ready to get really, really bad, even more under Trump. Trump is on some next level. Now the Israeli military is now a part of our military, right? Now he's talking about nuclear war on Iran, and he want to take the whole civilization out of Iran. Well, Iran is in cahoots with China and Russia, which means if that was to happen, They don't want to deal with American dollars. They want to deal with gold and other, things of substance. So we're really in World War III already. We're in World War III already. And there was this book. Albert, look at this guy when you get a chance. Albert Pike talked about how World War III will be put in motion. If you go back to him and you read what he said, that's exactly what's happening right now. This water war. Water is going to be another weapon that they'll use against us. Food shortages. But all this is depicted in the book of Revelations, mind you, because in our book of life talks about Revelation 1:9. It says to reveal yourself to yourself to be the savior of yourself. 1:9, self a savior. But you got to read the book. You got to read the book of Revelations so that you can understand what's all around you right now. And it's right there. It's right there. So, we living in peril times, we're living in serious times, we're living in the last days, as it was taught to us in the early 80s that this would happen in the hereafter. And now we're in the hereafter. What happens after? You're hearing about earthquakes, you're hearing about things happening, fish are up dead now, the ocean is getting warmer in water, the water is raising, the sun is shooting out more plasma, it's getting more hotter where it shouldn't be, lakes and rivers are drying up, more famine and pestilence are running around, and yet we still dancing around like we got time. Time is up. It's for those who got this knowledge. You better be ready. Better be ready. Because something's getting ready to happen that supersedes COVID-19. These devils are not playing, and neither should we. Make sure you have your contingency plans in place. Have your exit strategy if need be. Make sure you have food, preserved, things of that. Because, if the system crashes today, what's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your family? If the money system crashes, your money won't mean shit. If communications collapse, which is something we do in the military, we take out your communications first. Then we take out your supply second. Then we force feed you a certain propaganda third. Then we build concentration camps fourth. And then we make sure we control it all five. Ain't that what's happening right now? Right? Anytime you see two nations coming together and they're using the law to combine military forces to justify a war that was not sanctioned by Congress, it's over. We're at the end of civilization as we know it. It's just a matter of time. And in that movie, The Matrix, Morpheus tells people about AI and how it became a singularity. We don't know who struck first, according to what he said, but we know it was us who scorched the sky. That's nuclear war. That was in the first Matrix. That's where we're on the brink out now, right now. Nuclear war, the fallout, and me being what they call a NBC sergeant at the time, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare. If you ever look up nuclear, biological, chemical warfare, it is the worst type of war that you could imagine. We ain't talking about shooting guns and blowing you up with bombs. We're talking about nuclear, biological, which is what's happening with the GMOs and the foods, biological warfare, hence the pen that you stuck in you. You're no longer human. You're a transhumanoid. You're a cyborg now. Patent under the government's laws. Look that up. Those who took that shot, you're no longer human. You have no rights whatsoever. You're owned by the government who put these nanoparticles in you, and now you're not human anymore according to the law. Look that up. Don't take what I said on face value. Look what I said. And that's why 5% in this day and time who's still around and who's really living it out, our jobs is plentiful. We have to wake up the masses. And sometimes even if you wake them up, what can you do about this? What real military do we have? to fight the war? What supply system do we have in place to as a nation? What exit strategies we have as a nation when the shit hits the fan? And the shit is hitting the fan. And it's starting to smell real bad. These warnings that we give you under Ezekiel 3, verse 18, St. Luke 12, verse 47. Y'all remember that, right? The servant who knew the Lord well, prepared not himself, nor did according to the will, should be beaten. But many stripes. Stripes don't mean chevrons, military stripes. The stripes is whips, blood, gore, death. That's coming to your shores. It's coming to your front door soon. Be ready for that. Be really ready for that. You know? Yeah, it's heavy. Heavy science, you know? As I think about it being, you know, a combat veteran, the war is first for your mind, the war is for your wallet, the war is for your brain and how you operate, and the war is on your phone. Right? Do you know this phone right here is an explosive device?
Yeah, I was seeing some videos of...
They can program this phone to blow up in your face.
Young babies holding the phone and it blowing up.
Because of the heat, and all the things in it, this is actually a, what we call improvised explosive device. You know? It's deep, man. Deep. And the wisdom of God, which is today's mathematics, nothing to be played with, man. The wisdom of God is real. You know what I mean? Be wise and listen. Be clear and understand. And then apply. You know? Man, God.
Yeah, man. Got anything else you want to leave them with?
Yo, be true to yourself. Like the God said, be honest with yourself. You know, don't live a lie trying to falsify it as the truth. You know what I mean? Live your truth, whatever that truth is. You know, take care of your family, take care of yourselves, take care of these babies, man, because they're relying on us to do the right thing. They're relying on us to teach us right or teach them right by being right and exact. You know, thanks again, Jerul, man, for everything you're doing as far as filming brothers like myself and hopefully soon to be sisters, because there'll be a time where we won't be around to tell them, but you'll have footage to show them that, you know, that we were here striving to deliver a message to get you out of the blind, deaf, dumb position that you're in so you can live according to your nature. You know, let the 5% teach the true and living. I'm not talking about the fake and the phony, right? You know, the job pretenders, you know, stuff like that. I'm talking about the real ones that are quiet to a degree and doing what they got to do to better their, you know, way. You know, listen to them. Listen to those that are living it out by being a true example of what a real 5%er does, not just on the poor part, but everywhere. Right? Because the 5% is not just here, we're everywhere. But you gotta have that mindset to connect to one. You know, you gotta have that, you know, reality to be one. And if you really wanna be one, exist as that then. And it's lonely. Trust me when I tell you. It's a lonely situation, but that lonely brings peace. There's no confusion about it, you know? And you can't accept confusion in the name of I gotta be with somebody or something. No, peace is peace, no confusion. The absence of confusion. But if you're confused, you ain't gonna never be at peace, alone or not. If you're confused about who you are, you ain't at peace. That's confusion. Don't be confused about who you are and what you can become should you choose to become it.